Hello everybody, welcome.
Hello, welcome to our monthly energies and opportunities of 2020. Are we recording yet, or shall
We are
Am
definitely
I getting
recording.
ahead of myself?
No,
Okay.
we're on.
All right. So we're delighted to have you with us. We provide this monthly broadcast every month. It's a complimentary service to cover the universal news that are affecting us all, and specifically, yeah, in a big way this year, and specifically looking at what's affecting us and what's going on and energetically that would be personally affecting us, and also more on the world scale the latter part of June, and we'll be going through the month of July. So sit back, relax. We're going to be going through a lot of material. It's an extraordinary time. So this time in the evolution of humanity is like no other we've ever experienced. It brings dramatic changes that are really compelling a whole global revolution. So I've been talking about this for 3 or 4 years, the coming of this big transformation. We can see it in the energies, we can see it building. This is its crescendo point where change must happen. So as we go through the month, we keep in mind that this time period really marks a pivotal point in which the future and well-being of all of humanity hangs in the balance, and that's no kidding. It's real. So we have to get really aligned and very clear and be highly intentional. So we're going to explore the energies through both the astrological matrix and through the human design matrix. So Chetan and I both know both systems, but I tend to have more expertise with astrology, him with human design, so we sort of stick to our own corners there. But you'll see there are interlocking sort of energies that are echoes of the same theme, played out in different ways through astrology, through human design. So we're going to look so that we gain a deeper understanding of the forces at play and what they'll mean in our lives. Do you want to say a quick hello before I just carry on?
Quick hello everybody. Let's just say, we're moving out of one age into another, and there's bound to be huge upset in the world as we do this, playing out on many, many levels. One thing that is very obvious is there's an opportunity in consciousness to rise on this planet. So when these things happen, it's easier for some people than it is for others. And the play at the moment is, as much as possible, to go beyond any sense of blame that there's somebody else is causing all the problems in our life, and start embracing more and more personal responsibility, and that in all the actions, everything that we do. That following rule systems, it's been great up to a point, and all of a sudden a lot of the rule systems don't seem to work anymore. And so that is very much what's up at the moment. We've been very much pointing towards this time. It's just getting really interesting. The foot is not coming off the gas just yet. And it's just, the main thing of all of this is to remember ourselves as unique individuals, take responsibility for our lives, and to be in alignment with the rising of consciousness that's happening on the planet at the moment, this rising of awareness that we are all on the same planet. We may not be embracing it in the same way as each other, but we are in this planet, in this journey through space at the same time. And so I've said over and over again, and I'm sure everyone will know this, love is the only game in town. It's the only thing that's playing out here. And it's the most important thing for us to remember. So let's see what we've got. Very fascinating month coming up ahead.
Yeah, so it's the linchpin of the whole year. When we each year when we begin our Energies and Opportunities program, we name the year. So we look at the biggest theme that runs through the year, and we give the year a name. 2020, the year of dramatic change and personal empowerment. And the two really go together. So dramatic change, because it has to happen. The systems are all breaking down. They need to. They're outdated. They don't work for a 21st century global community.
So can we let go of them gracefully? That's the thing, and start embodying the new.
Right, and some of us are doing a better job than others at that. So let's look at why we're saying that this month is the pivotal month. So we have here beginning in the early part of June, on June 5th, we had a lunar eclipse. Now that's a part of a set of 3 eclipses. Usually they happen in pairs. This time there's 3 in a row, and that occasionally happens in a year. But what's phenomenal is the placement of the planetary arrangement during these eclipses. So the first one, on June 5th, the eclipse, it was a full moon, which we call a lunar eclipse, which means the sun at 15 degrees of Gemini directly opposed the moon at 15 degrees of Sagittarius, close to the nodal axis, so that the moving soul path of all humanity intersects with the full moon of the month. We call that an eclipse. This one, a lunar eclipse. It has Venus in there with it, so Venus, the planet of love, harmony, beauty, money flow, romance, all the goodies in life. In this powerful shake it up, rock it out, change it up kind of energy that we have going with this lunar eclipse that happened June 5th. So any of the eclipses are not just an event that happens on a day. They really have to do with, they're a longer cycle. So we've got that pivotal day of June 5th when the eclipse happened, but then it's weeks and even months after, even up to 3 months after, integrating the energy of the eclipse. And what was phenomenal about this one is that both Mars, the planet has to do with our work in the world, our careers, our businesses, and together with Neptune, which has to do with higher spiritual consciousness in Pisces, both of those forming a very strong right angle with that eclipse point. So what that's saying is kind of what we've been saying, which is we've got to get aligned with our truth, and all of humanity needs to be aligned with our truth. So in whatever way we've been out of alignment with our deepest truth, we know what's right. We know what's true for us if we really tune in, especially those of you who are in our community and have understood about your human design. You have a way to quickly get to your truth. So now it's about living that truth, making decisions according to that truth. The next thing that happens before the following eclipse, it's already happened by today, but June 17th, 18th, the planet Mercury has to do with communication, turn retrograde at 15 degrees of Cancer. So it will do this 3 times a year. It's not a particularly unusual event, but it's unusual in that it's happening in this series of eclipses and also these other planetary retrogrades. So it's contributing to the big impact that the energies of this year has. So when Mercury's retrograde for about 3 weeks, from say the 18th of June to about July 11th, 12th, it's a time to review the aspect of our life that's covered by where Mercury is retrograding. So in the general sense, it has to do with our family values, our home, our security. What really is our security? What do we really put our trust in? And then the planet Venus, Venus, again, our love, nature, financial well-being, has been in retrograde already since May 12th, 13th, in Gemini, continues in retrograde all the way until June 25th, where it does a station at 5 degrees of Gemini, but it won't pass that station point, which means it won't really pick up speed again until the end of July. Then the next rock and roll thing that happens is the Summer Solstice on June 21st of this year. Now,
that is tomorrow.
That is tomorrow. Now it actually happens tonight at 11:43 p.m. Pacific time, but for most of the world that's going to be on the 21st. But what's significant about this eclipse that's coming up on the 20th is that the sun moves into the sign of Cancer at the same time we have a total solar eclipse. So the total eclipse is the most powerful change kind of energy you can get. It's when the sun and moon are together, what we call a new moon, but it's a solar eclipse. and it's an exact solar eclipse. So it's interacting with the moving soul path for all humanity, which has just moved into Gemini, which is saying we all need to come together and start really communicating. I mean, what a concept. Here we are in the age of Aquarius, right? So that summer solstice, along with this huge eclipse, we'll talk about that a little more, both of us. But then we have a third eclipse, which we'll cover on the 4th, 5th of July, which is another powerful lunar eclipse at 13 degrees of Cancer, and with the moon in Capricorn.
So a little bit of human design perspective on all this. I'm not going to cover quite so much ground. I am going to talk about the Mercury turn that took place a couple of days ago, and I am going to talk about the eclipse that is on tonight, the 20th. So the Mercury turn takes place, this is where Mercury is cruising along, comes to a stop, and from our vantage point on Earth, looks like it's going backwards. And for 3 weeks, we have the opportunity to review everything going on in our life. So, does anyone have a story? A story like, well, I can't manage this because of that, and I'm so handicapped in this area of my life because of all these constraints and difficulties and things like that. Yeah? Anyone got a story? Right?
I've had a few.
So, Mercury does this turn on the 39 gateway of provocation and the 6th line. It's a line that's always fascinated me. And it's the line that's called troubleshooting, the natural gift for solving problems. And here's the crux of it. Some people enjoy having their problems, right? Some people like having their stories, their crutch, what it is, well, I can't do this because of that. So fixing their problems can really upset them. And so what I sense with this Mercury retrograde is all of us have the opportunity to examine exactly where do we put our limits up. Oh, life's so tough, I can't do this because of this, that, and the other. And where instead of bemoaning the facts and kind of stopping ourselves in our tracks, where do we find the creative impulse to go forward and do something very different, very creative, right? Transformational times at the moment. The other thing I want to look at is the placement of this particular eclipse that's taking place this evening in California time, Pacific time.
Yeah.
And it's taking place in gateway number 15 and the 3rd line. So the 15 is the gateway of humanity. And as Carola just said, this is aligning itself with the whole path for humanity.
So the gate 15 lunar eclipse was June 5th, right?
Yeah, tonight the eclipse is happening in gateway number 15, right?
Well,
Gateway number 15, 1-5. So it's aligned with the nodal placement, this destiny path for humanity. Right? And gateway number 15 is the gateway of love of humanity. Love of humanity. It's the appreciation for each other. It's this whole idea that, yes, we are all in this thing together, that we can start recognizing and not only just appreciating each other, but actually accepting each other. And accepting the huge, diverse range of ways in which we live out our lives here on planet Earth. So it happens in the 15 and the 3rd line. The 3rd line is called being modest. An unwavering commitment to finish what you start. Completing all tasks while you remain unassuming in achievement. So just to say, this is, whatever the changes are taking place at the moment, they are essential. They've been brewing for a long, long time. Things have been out of balance. And it's just to say, let's just deal with it. Let's just handle it. Let's not make a big deal out of the whole thing. Let us put forward, accept we have all kinds of different ways of living our lives, and put forward ways in which we can combine our energies, combine our trust, and make it all happen. So that is what I see particularly around this eclipse that's taking place tonight.
powerful.
Very, very
Right.
powerful.
I see what happened because my numbers got reversed.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, okay, so we wanted to let you know before we're going to start going now into a bit more detail as we progress through the remainder of this month and into the very exciting month of July. Wanted to let you know that for those of you who follow us and you're on our list so you get our emails, that you've probably been seeing the special, which is the Life Path reading special, We offer this usually once a year. Sometimes we also offer some version of it at the Christmas special. But this year we're doing it as a summer special, and essentially what it is a deep dive life path reading with me, which includes integrating your human design with your astrological chart, pulling in some information also from the fixed stars, and doing a really deep dive for 90 minutes into your life, your entire life, looking at the whole lifetime, your soul path, your purpose, where you are now on your journey, and what's coming up ahead in time over the next 12 months, 18 months, up to 24 months. I don't do hard predictions like this or that's going to happen to you, because we know that we create our own opportunities and our own experiences, but I help you to see where your opportunity cycles are, where the energy might be tough, where there's some challenges, something to move through in order to get to your next level. And I can give you the timing of that and also talk with you about how to work through it. Then what's beautiful about this special, I want you to know about it, because in case you're thinking that a reading might help you clarify your life right now, since everything's in the middle of change, I would love to serve you in this way. Included with my life path reading is a 1-hour follow-up coaching call with me. I'm a business coach. I've helped dozens and dozens and dozens of highly successful business owners to get more successful and to really come to a place not only that they're succeeding more in terms of worldly terms, making more money, etc., but that they're doing more of what they love to do. So I would love to serve you, so be on the lookout for that, because it will be expiring fairly soon. I don't think we have much. I think I've got 7 spaces left or something like that.
I've been watching Carola do these readings over the years and watching the effects it's had on people, and it's like, if you have the inclination, you really want to see a little bit more about yourself and about your life, don't miss this opportunity. It's pretty amazing. And that's what I have to say from my heart.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on. We got lots of news to share.
Okay, so where are we?
So where we are is we were just looking at this solar eclipse.
Very intense few days this
Yeah.
end of this week.
Yeah, and it's got a few. The solar eclipse has a few particular, details to it that sort of help us to context it. So here we are, solar eclipse tonight in Pacific time, tomorrow morning for most of the rest of the world. Late evening in Hawaii and Alaska, etc. You have to use your time zone calculator to get it over to your time zone. But the exact moment it happens isn't as important unless you like to meditate at the eclipses, which many people do. So if that's the case, then what do we say, 11:43 p.m. Pacific time, and you could extrapolate that. Okay, so this solar eclipse is a total solar eclipse. It's the most powerful change point in the entire year of 2020. It's pivotal. It includes a shift in the moving soul path for all humanity, moving out of where we have been in the sign of Cancer for the last 18 months, 17 and a half months, and moving into the sign of Gemini, which is about communication and connection and community. So finding your tribe, finding your community, finding what works for you in terms of connecting and communicating, having the realization about how important it is to us to be able to have our social life, to be able to get together with our loved ones and our friends, to be able to gather together in workshops and sports arenas, and that there's this huge thing we're missing right now, which is that fellowship of man, fellowship of woman. So it's about reorienting our priorities, this nodal shift, really rediscovering what's important to us at a deeper level. We're revisioning our relationship to money, and maybe arriving at some practical ideas for recreating our money flow, how that happens, our money scene, lots of people changing jobs or changing their business model. I've just watched several of our colleagues and friends do that. We've been doing that some too, pivoting. So we'll see more of that. Also recreating in our love relationships, and certainly recreating our relationship to money and finances. Don't get into fear. Don't get into shutdown. We've continued to invest in the things that are important to us. We've made a couple of large investments. We're not going to stop, and we have less money coming into our company, but that's not going to slow us down from continuing to invest in growth. So look at that for yourself and make a decision about how much your financial choices are being motivated by fear and how much they're being motivated by clarity. So our life direction also going through a bit of adjustment as we align more with our principles.
So following on from this amazing eclipse that we're having, there's a lot of energy in the chart, the human design chart, that we all get by transit. As we move towards the eclipse today, we have the 6124, which is this channel from the crown center to the mind center. And Pluto on one end, Pluto, wherever you see Pluto, Pluto means business. It means the opportunity of massive shift and change, transformation. It's also conjoined with Jupiter at the moment as well, and Jupiter retrograding back through gateway number 61, giving us another viewing of it. And so these two together in this gateway of inner truth. You know when something just, you get it, right? And it's not reasonable, it's not necessarily rational, you haven't necessarily followed a progression of logic to get there. All of a sudden you just get it. Something stops you in your tracks and you get a whole new perception of your life. That is the nature of the 61, and that is in place now all the way through November of this year, and again a large part of next year as well. On the other end of the channel is planet Uranus, the gateway number 24, and Uranus is this planet of breakthrough. So we would have to say a large part of our history, if you will, is related to roadblocks and limitations and rule systems and the way it's always been, and that's just how it's going to be. Cast in stone, no way of changing it. And the nature of Uranus is a massive breakout. And it basically says, yes, that's how it used to be, but look, here's a completely different way of looking at things. And so the two are combining to make this channel from the crown to the mind center, where we're being bombarded with these downloads of the movie's changed, everybody. The rule system's changed. What was going on last week is no longer relevant this week. What's going on in this week is not going to be relevant next week. It's like the massive change that we're all getting. And for some of us, it's a lot easier to handle than for others. You know, for people that are absolutely dyed in the wool, this is the only way I can see my life, you know, I'm a dyed in the wool, whatever. A lot of trouble trying to relate to this because existence is showing us something very different. It's basically saying, wake up. The rules have changed. Whatever you've been hanging on to doesn't work so much anymore. What is also going on this week is we have the channel of 1020. Venus is still in retrograde motion. It's winding down. It's slowing down. It's in gateway number 20, the gateway of now, neutral ground. In this now moment, there is no problem. There's only this. And on the other end of the channel is gateway number 10, which is where the Earth is at the moment, and also the South Node Destiny, where we're coming from. And it makes up this channel we call awakening, a commitment to higher principles. And again, you know, higher principles means evolving out of the set pattern and the way it's always been and moving into something very, very different. Third channel is the channel 1222, and now Neptune's been in the 22, the gateway of grace. It's been opening up all possibilities for us to be much more gracious, graceful in our lives. And on the top end of it, in the 12th gateway, today, this last week, we've had the sun in there, but today we have just a flash of the moon as well before it happened, before we go to the eclipse this evening. So tremendous amount of individual energy going on today, right? Leading up to the eclipse, leading up to the solstice. So if ever there was a kind of fulcrum point in time for us to really rearrange our whole attitudes. When I say that these channels are individual, in human design there are all these different circuits, and these three channels are all individual channels. which basically means they're not tied into rule systems, they're not tied into belief systems. They give us that opportunity to get something in a completely different way, that we actually have a live wire to truth at the moment. And truth is something that cannot be conveyed. It's something that can be experienced on an individual level.
In the now.
And that's
In the
it.
moment.
That is the energy leading up to this eclipse this evening. And, following on in these next days, we're still going to have these two channels, the 6124, and we're going to have this channel, the 1020, for the most part of this week. So just be aware of that. The commitment to higher principles aligned with really establishing a breakout of old patterns into something very different, into what resonates for us as truth.
So this, the second in a series of 3 eclipses this summer. And after that eclipse and all of the energy that will be devoted to integrating what comes up for us and for humanity at that eclipse, if we move on now, let's look at the end of June and how we close out the month. On June 28th, we have a first quarter moon. This is the first time that we begin to see the actions that are going to be important for us to take, the choices that are going to be important for us to make in this cycle following the 2 eclipses we've already had. So it's a sort of a check-in point in time. And as it does that, the planet Mars, which has to do with our work in the world or our business, our professions, has finally left the sign of Pisces, and where it's been for quite some time, and has now moved into its home sign of Aries. So it's just absolutely chomping at the bit, raring to go in Aries, and we still have Corona out there. We still have, a lot of limitation on how much energy we can just rush out there with our energy. So we have to find new ways of doing that. So we see that with the right angle to Mars from the Sun and Mercury together in the sign of Cancer. So that right angle saying, okay, if you want to rush out there and launch your new thing and put up your new website, whatever you're going to do, but start your new career.
Do it carefully.
But wait, but wait. Do it in orderly and secure fashion, doing it in well thought out fashion, which is not Mars and Aries' strong point. It wants to just rush in and do. Venus, in the early degrees of Gemini, because it's backed up and backed up and backed up, it just, by the first quarter moon at the end of June, it just had turned stationary direct. So 6 weeks of backwards motion from Venus, taking us through this big review of our love life, our finances. Finally, we get to station on June 25th, 24th, 25th. And then, Venus still now moving very slowly. But the nice thing about this movement here at the end of June and into July is that is forming a sextile, which is a linking energy with Mars, which should be great for romance. So if you already have a lover, then at least what you can do is cuddle up at home and enjoy each other and find new ways perhaps of enjoying your love relationship, creative ways. And for those of you who aren't in a primary relationship, find new ways of expressing yourself creatively, or find new ways of attracting money to you. So it's a creative aspect, it's a catalyzing aspect, lots of decisions could come out of this, and some forward movement yet to come, probably later in the summer, maybe into the fall. But still, important decisions, important turning points. So Mercury, the sign of communication, continuing its retrograde motion, bringing us that review of all of the essential foundations of our life, because it's retrograding in the sign of Cancer, which is about our foundations, our security, our home, our family. Perhaps finding new meaning and new ways of experiencing our security. What is security really? What is it we're counting on in life? And perhaps our family connections and the quality of those relationships is our greatest security in life, truly. At least that's a question to ask. So we'll be looking at, at this particular first quarter moon, what is it that I need to do to bring balance and harmony back into my life? That's, I think, the question of the time at the end of the month.
So, looking again at the human design perspective as we come towards the end of this merry month of June, and we've got over the eclipse, we've got over the Mercury retrograde, and we're kind of beginning to find our balance again. And we're recognizing that, again, we're being offered all kinds of possibilities to, I won't say change our mind, but to change our ways, to change our attitudes in quite a dramatic way. And to remember at some stage, before we were told all the rules, before we were told, well, you've got to do this, and you've got to get a job, and you've got to do all these things, we actually were pretty innocent. And I'm not saying we all have to revert to being kids again, but it's just to remember there was always that innocent side, that playful side. That happens over time that we tend to take life way too seriously. And there can be so many things in life that can infuriate us, this shouldn't happen, this isn't allowed, all these bad things going on. And at the same time to remember, what's my story in all of this? Does it affect me directly? Do I have to go and join a demonstration or a riot or something or other to make a point? Or is it likely I'd just get swept along in it? So just to see, in this time, as the world gets more and more apparently on the outside crazier, right? The more crazy chaos that's going on the outside, so important to remember the calm on the inside. Center of the cyclone, nothing going on. Blue sky, birds singing. The crazy going on around us. And I say this particularly because there are these very individual channels, the 6124, 1020, committing to higher principles, and Mars has gone into gate 25 now. And gateway 25 is the gateway of innocence. It's about us reminding ourselves of our innocent nature. And as we come to the end of the month, just to see how we can be more playful in our lives, how we can be in more of a state of service. As we enter into July, we're going to enter into this particular life theme we call tension. And we'll just see there's a lot of things around us that are apparently not in tune. Is it our job? Are we getting called through our own design, our own nature to be involved? Or are we here to witness ourselves in our lives and to be in that centered place in all our interactions? If somebody comes at us and they're really upset and provoked and all uptight and stuff, do we react or do we engage from a place of love? That is more and more going to be the question for us all in these coming days and weeks.
Let's take a look. Let's go into July. So the first lunation, the full moon of early July, on the 4th of July, which America generally, traditionally has celebrated. We will have the third now, of the set of summer eclipses. And this one, 13 degrees of Capricorn Cancer. So the moon in 13 degrees of Capricorn oppose the sun at 13 degrees Cancer. For those of you who have planets in proximity to those degrees of Capricorn or Cancer, this eclipse will be especially a volatile one for you. Although it could, when I say volatile, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just it's fired up. So a lot of good can come out of it, and ideally a lot of good does come out of the eclipses. Now this is true also for all the eclipses we mentioned. If you have planets close to those points, you're going to feel those eclipses in your life even more profoundly than everybody else. And the kinds of changes that you'll find yourself making will be more systemic. But we're all going to go through changes. So this next eclipse, July 4th at 9:46 p.m. Pacific time. So again, most of us in the eastern parts of the world will experience this on July 5th. We're looking at with the aspects here. This eclipse happens to hit the Sun-Uranus conjunction in the chart of the U.S. Declaration of Independence. Exactly, it's an exact eclipse on
the birth of a nation.
Yeah. So not only are we personally perhaps going through some real rock and roll around what really is security and what can we truly count on in terms of the systems that we have in place to organize and support humanity. We're also, America's going through a big, well, let's just call it a dark night of the soul. This is the coming to age in a sense. This is the return, the energies being the same with the planet Pluto as they were at the signing of the Declaration.
And making tea in the Boston Harbor.
Right. Getting rid of you English.
Yeah, really. Rotten old Brits.
So lots of history has passed, lots of changes. Many of us are saying not enough change, not systemic enough. Let's not do it halfway. Let's do the whole job. And that's essentially what we see going on right now with this eclipse. Any misunderstandings, and there will be misunderstandings. We've got Mars, volatile, powerful in its own sign of Aries, that very challenging aspect with the planet Mercury, which has to do with communication. Mercury retrograding, so we're reviewing, we're looking back over things that we've accomplished or completed or not completed before that we need to wrap up and complete. We're getting our systems more in order. We're revamping our systems. That's the Mercury retrograde. Mars chomping at the bit to get out there and take action, take action, take action. So we're all going to be feeling that, a lot of tension in the air to, get her done. And yet the need for some degree of forethought, caution. Romance continues to be flowing really, really high with Venus and Mars in that lovely aspect that we saw happening in the latter part of June. So onward.
So here we come to this eclipse again. So with an eclipse of this nature, the sun is on one side, the earth is in the middle, and the moon is opposite. So the earth gets in the way of the sunlight on the moon. So sun is in gateway number 39 at this time. And you might remember we were just saying about the Mercury retrograde that just took place. Has anyone got a story? And so for this time with the Mercury retrograde, Mercury is going to turn again on the 7th or so, I think, in the next few days. But the sun is very, very close to where Mercury did its turn. And if you remember, I was saying, well, have you got a story? Have you got a way in which you kind of block yourself going forward? And I'm reminded of that, I don't know if you saw that movie called Notting Hill, where they're having a dinner party and the hero and heroine are having a dinner party and they're going around the dinner table. They've got one brownie left. They've had their dinner. They've got a brownie left. And they're going to offer a prize for who can say the sorriest story. So they take it in turns to go around, well, I really deserve the brownie because, my life is so dreadful because of this and that. And so, I'm just reminding us all again in a light-hearted way to look at this thing. What are the things that hold us back? Where do we prevent ourselves in going forward? So the sun is in gate 39, line 5, right? Mercury did the turn in 39, line 6, but 39, line 5 is finding assistance by facing obstacles directly. Help becomes available, right? Instead of dodging, shying away from things, by just embracing something very directly, assistance becomes available. The moon opposite the sun is in 38, line 5, and the line is called actualizing, penetrating through misunderstandings by connecting with company. Here's the thing, when we start combining our intentions, combining our ideas, just seeing, these certain things need to get changed. These things are not up to speed, they need to be rearranged. And so again, this eclipse is highlighting how do we prevent ourselves going forward. On the one side it says, check in with company, find out everybody else's situation, find assistance from like-minded, like-hearted people. And the moon's placement, along with the earth, penetrating through misunderstandings by connecting with company. Who's going the same way? Who has broken out of the fossilized concepts? There's only certain ways in which things can happen, and if we're going to move forward, and let's face it, America is always a country that is in a state of transformation. And so let's just expect massive transformation taking place in these times, and to just be open to it. Where is my place? What's my involvement? What's my truth in all of this? So at this time we have the two channels going on. We have the 6124, and we also have the channel of 1762, which is the channel of organizing. And there's a great opportunity for us to really get some clear organizations in place for a sensible path forwards. So whether it's America, whether it's everywhere else in the world, just to be aware of this. A lot of things can be very well placed in this time.
Are we good?
We good.
Okay, let's move on and look at the third quarter moon, which happens on the 12th of July. So moving now into the middle part of July, where we're really getting into the implementation phase of whatever was important to birth as important changes in our lives that were shown by the three eclipses, that we came to realize by the three eclipses. We're now in an implementation phase that is saying, all right, the time is now to get these things in place. Now, it still might not be time to launch out there with some brand new product or service, or, you know, it might be, but it may not be. You're going to tune in inside. It's we still have these retrogrades going. Mercury just now about to turn direct on here on July 12th. It was slowing to that station point a few days ago. Now here it is on July 12th at its station point, 5 degrees of Cancer. It's got, you know, a couple weeks to traverse back past its original station point before it's going to be reasonable to make any important changes. So latter July perhaps, or even the third week in July, fourth week in July, better time. And into some of the weeks in early August, which we'll see when we're back with you next month. These will be some months where you could start really implementing. But then we'll see, we'll be up to the Mars retrograde, which is a 2-month period.
Another treat
of reviewing our work, our career, our
business. JOB, right? Are we still involved in a JOB?
Do we still
or are we
love
doing
our
something?
work,
There
right?
we are.
Yeah. And how are we recreating our work? So all of that coming in the late summer and fall. Right now, it's about reorienting, getting our clarity, seeing what needs to happen moving forward, finding the certainty within ourselves, making the commitment to following through in the highest way possible to bring our best self into the whole community of humanity as we're struggling to evolve. It's almost like humanity in itself is in the throes of the birth process. You know, if you've ever been around a woman in labor about to give birth to a baby,
there's a lot of noise.
It's a very powerful, it's like a bit of a volcano going on, a very powerful process with this new soul coming in, this human being birthing through one's body. And it's like that, you know, humanity's trying to birth itself right now into the Aquarian age. So where are we individually with all of that? And this point in July, mid-July is the time, good time to be asking ourselves that. That's a critical turning point following a lot of the breakthrough realizations and discoveries that after those three eclipses. So we're talking about catalyzing action, moving things into action, getting the vision clear, seeing what the action is, and then of course finding the best timing for that. Those of you who are members of our Energies and Opportunities program, which is different than this broadcast, this gives you more detail and more support, know that there's only a few periods of time when it's going to be really productive to be planning your important work or business moves. We still have, at this point, phenomenally, we still have this Venus in sextile to Mars. It usually doesn't last that long, but because Venus has been retrograde and the whole configuration of the energies and the way they're moving, Mars, our work, our career, together with Chiron going through big healing, and then this beautiful linking energy with Venus, what's the opportunity? You know, how can we grace ourselves with a more fulfilling life? How can we find high romance and the return to money flow? When will that come? How will that come? Those are some of the questions. And Neptune holds the key. Neptune, the planet of spiritual wisdom, of spiritual awakening. it's the key to cultivating a higher consciousness, a higher awareness, which is the only way to go forward creatively. Who was it that said, was it Einstein that said a problem that was created at one level of consciousness cannot be solved at that same level of consciousness?
Kind of
It seems obvious. So we have to raise our consciousness in order to solve the problems of the day. That's the name of the game right now. Okay, over to you.
12th of July is a fascinating day from the human design perspective. Mars and the asteroid Chiron come together, and Chiron has just started doing a retrograde passage. They come together in gate 17. And gate 17 is a gateway in the I Ching. We call it following, we call it the gateway of opinions. But to me it's a fascinating thing. And if you're looking at a sixth line here, which is where it takes place, the highest form of opinion is an opinion that serves humanity going forward. And this is a very particular line. It's called the line of being the Bodhisattva, attuning to the higher levels of human consciousness. So Chiron has been in there for a while, and now Mars is joining it. And if you're not familiar with the word Bodhisattva, and you're perhaps not comfortable with the idea of reincarnation, but you would have to say some souls come into this world on a very high level of consciousness, and they are here to teach and give the benefit of their wisdom into the world. And they do that to find people that actually can attune to what it is they're saying. So I'm just emphasizing this at the moment, that Chiron is doing this return back through this whole arena of what is the highest form of teaching, if you will. What is it that really conveys humanity forward in consciousness? And Mars joining in on this day and just giving us that opportunity to go beyond what we've said, this is the only limit of possibility for me. It makes up this channel of the organizer for this couple of days, and just to see that many things can get tailored in a different way. I will just say, in my understanding of this, there's some very profound teachers that are going to become apparent in these weeks, months, perhaps years ahead. Some people that have just really tuned into what is valuable for humanity at this time. It's a tremendous time for humanitarian projects. Things that uplift humanity. Not just the functional stuff, but actually bring about the raising of consciousness here. And so that to me is very key in this particular time around the 12th where this is all taking place.
Let's take a look. Let's go further now and look at the new moon happening on July 20th. So that new moon happens just a little bit before the sun goes into the sign of Leo. So it's it'll be finishing with this new moon its transit of the sign of Cancer, where it's been all this time with all these eclipses rocking and rolling. And although one of the eclipses was in Gemini Sag, but here we go. So the sun and moon together making a new moon on the 20th of July at 28 degrees of the sign of Cancer, exactly opposite Saturn. Saturn has to do with our boundaries, our laws, the law of cause and effect, or karma, if you will. It's our shadow side, the part of ourself that we most need to look at and accept and bring into the light and heal. So here we are with this powerful new moon exactly opposite Saturn. It's just not going to be possible to hide our shadow side. It's not going to be possible to hide from our shadow any longer. So the really effective way to work with it is to simply, our shadow side is just where our pain is. Any undigested pain, any pain that hasn't been resolved. Get that healing done. Get the pain of your life resolved. Stop blaming others for it. See what the jewel is for you, the lesson is for you, and move on, release it and move on. That's what this new moon is saying. That's how you free yourself to become that lighter being who can really be a force for positive contribution.
Is it really a pain, or is it something that you've convinced yourself is really a pain?
Yeah, it may have been painful at the time. Often it's childhood wounds that, but But that was a long time ago, and there's no need to carry the pain.
Right.
And the only reason we do carry the pain is because we haven't digested it. We haven't learned what it's there to teach us. And so when we'll get that over with and just do that work, it frees us. It totally frees us to then be more in the driver's seat of our own life, creating the life that we truly desire from our heart and soul. Venus and Mars continuing this high romance. Venus will be moving now as we get into the latter part of July. We'll see this, we'll talk about on our next broadcast, which will be happening July 25th. But for now, just a little advanced look so you know that Venus and Mars beautiful dance they've been doing will be completing itself here around the latter part of July as Venus moves into a right angle with Neptune. So romance might still be high during this time, but our illusions, the things that we're not seeing clearly about ourselves in our love relationship, or about our mate, or the nature of our relationship, or the purpose of relationships in our lives, whatever we're not seeing clearly about relationships and about money and our values is going to need to be confronted, just looked at, and it'll get increasingly uncomfortable if we don't. And the uncomfortableness will be more around feeling confused or feeling off-center, like I just don't understand what's going on. It's never a reason to not understand what's going on in our life. The truth is always within us.
Yeah.
So, there's perhaps going to be some hard decisions we'll be making around this time. Mercury and Mars still in that right angle square. This phenomena doesn't usually happen, that a 90-degree angle between Mercury and Mars would go on for a month, but it's happening because of the relative speed of both of those planets and the unusualness of this year. So this is about coming to the apex, and especially here at the last little bit of the Sun in Cancer before we move to Leo, of a decision. Something's got to give. What is it? What is it that you're going to, what's your pivot? If you haven't made it yet, or you haven't come to it yet, what is it? That's the question here at this new moon.
So if we look at the placement of the new moon from the human design perspective, we're in gate 56. And gate 56 is the gateway called the Wanderer, and it's the gateway of stimulation. And the stimulation is very much it's a vocal gate of putting out the expressions of our beliefs in life. If I told you this, what would you say? This is my belief about something, and we know beliefs very much shape our lives. So you tell somebody, well, this is what I believe, this is my story here. And, people come back and say, well, how do you get that point of view? It's like, really, does that really merit, credibility? And so the 56 is where this new moon is taking place, and it's in the third line here. The third line is called being thorough, examining any and all fixed beliefs. So in a sense, we've gone through this whole month of being challenged, Mercury saying, where do we block ourselves? What's our story that's holding us up in life? Why can't we just blow it off and make our way through it? And then the eclipse that took place that just basically said, it's time to connect. It really is time to kind of open the borders up and connect with people around us. Like, just see, there's this thing called humanity here. And, we're all apparently humans. I mean, some of us may be more alien than others, but, here we are for the 80, playing the human game. And, every opportunity to get on with each other. And so, the breakdown of fixed beliefs, this arrival of truth in our lives, where we just start getting these downloads and we start saying, my goodness, I've been barking up the wrong tree for years. I need to drop that. I need to find where it is life really is calling me. Does that involve I drop the JOB business? Do I, realign my life in a completely different way? Do I accept the opportunity of doing something or living my life or holding attitudes and beliefs that are completely different? So here we are, examining any and all fixed beliefs. You examine and update your beliefs, or you are careless, how you associate them into your life. It's just going to come about, just as everything is rearranging itself, transforming itself, that holding on to fixed beliefs, well, it's always going to be like this. Somebody told me ages ago, this is how it is, and I've just believed it ever since. This is the time. We're being bombarded by the truth. We're being encouraged. Open up another doorway. See what's really calling to us. And as Carola said right at the beginning of this call, this is just the most extraordinary time for us. It has not happened like this for humanity in eons, and just let's embrace it. Let's see what we can really pull off here. We've been waiting for this time.
We came here for this time.
Apparently.
Let's look at now closing up the month of July. And again, we'll be back with you on the 25th, but we do have a first quarter moon on July 27th that it might be useful for us to know ahead of time. That first quarter moon will be that first juncture following the new moon that we just had on, what was it, the 20th? That is the turning point for us of the first time when it's going to be reasonable to begin really taking action. I didn't say easy, but I did say reasonable. Not easy because Mercury and Mars still in that right angle, exact right angle square. I don't remember ever seeing this long.
This long of a time.
Of a transit. Yeah. It's together with all the other phenomena this year.
So communication on one side and our activities on the other side.
Yeah, and the two of them at loggerheads.
Loggerheads.
It's like what we perhaps want to be putting out or saying or
are we walking
doing,
our talk?
Connecting, and what we're actually doing
Yeah.
or envisioning that we have to do or whatever seem to be in a conflict, and that conflict is moving now in this first quarter moon to get resolved. So how is it that it'll be resolved? Through, again, take it to a higher level. Chiron, the planet Chiron has to, it's not really a planet, it's a huge asteroid, but astrologers call it a planet because it acts like one. But anyway, the asteroid Chiron is still conjoining Mars, and has been for most of this time, is saying that this is time for healing. And Chiron is about the alignment of higher self and lower self. So it is our time to make a jump, to begin functioning more and more and more from our higher self, speaking our truth, living our truth, honoring our truth, and finding that we can trust our truth as we move through life. That's the essential pivot that needs to happen for each of us. And we all have one at this time, or we wouldn't be here. So Uranus, having been in this lovely aspect with Mercury, this is the last of it now, that sextile that has been going on for a whole month, a highly creative, out-of-the-box thinking that has brought a lot of new innovation, ideas to the forefront, has presented, options, or openings perhaps for new options. So highly creative, along with the very creative aspect of Venus in this lovely aspect with Mars, which is still happening again because we have these retrogrades that have slowed things down. So the difference is that Venus on this day of the first quarter moon, 27th of July, moves into a right angle, an exact right angle. It's been in a right angle, but an exact right angle with Neptune. So whatever we haven't been seeing clearly about our finances, about our love life, to put it simply, about our values, should now get some sort of light bulb moment, at least following this first quarter moon, if not at the first quarter moon. And Mercury moving into a beautiful triangle with Neptune, finally we get some creative flow going. So I said this is the time when you could now begin to put out some new things. Ideally find some great dates to do that if you have a timing expert you work with, an astrologist you work with, or if you'd like to get to know me with my Life Path services and look at timing with me. work with somebody, invest your time and energy into working with somebody who can help you to see the moment when, the lights come on, the moment when the door opens for you, and to help you think through what is that going to be, so that you make the really best use of this powerful energy, very positive healing energy, creative breakthroughs coming, and that's going to just keep increasing in early August. New projects, new plans for growth, for expansion, those are going to be continuing. Lots of highly inspired creative ideas coming. So there is hope for this year after all.
So as we come to the end of the month, from the human design perspective, Venus, which did a retrograde and then started coming forward again, it's come back on the 29th, it comes back exactly to where it did that station and did the retrograde. And this is in gate 45 in the 6th line. And for those familiar with human design, the 45 is it's the voice for the tribe, for the family. It's the voice for all people, that want to belong, that want to put their energies forward. So we've had this opportunity the last 5-6 weeks, since May the 12th it was, to re-examine our relationships with everybody, to see our sense of responsibility. Where do I put my trust? What is it that's really calling to me?
Our values.
Who are the people that honor me? Who do the people I honor?
Our sense of what really, really, really matters to us. To really take a look at that.
So as we come to the end of the month, Venus come back to that place again and now starts going forward. And it's just basically reminding us, okay, where do I place my responsibility going forward? To remember, in this time of the greatest chaos, the greatest transformation is possible. When all about you are losing it, right? Can you stay in the middle and be absolutely clear with yourself? That's the whole point. And just to remind you, Carola is offering this life path reading. I would not miss it if I were you, but no pressure.
You had yours some 20-something years ago.
Blimey. So it's our website, humandesignforusall.com, right? humandesignforusall.com /life, L-I-F-E, hyphen, path, P-A-T-H, hyphen, reading, R-E-A-D-I-N-G, right? humandesignforusall.com /life, hyphen, path, hyphen, reading. Check it out.
You can also just go to the Services tab and use the drop-down menu and click on Life Path. So either way will get you there, and we're closing the doors on this promotion soon. So if you'd like to explore it, like to take a look at it for yourself, there it is. We invite you to do that, and it's been a joy, as
we
always.
will see you next month.
We'll be back with you
We're
again
all
on the
not holding
25th.
up, we're breathing easily, and it's going to be a very amazing month. All kinds of things, amazing things are going to happen for us. So just be as aware as you can, trust your design, be clear, and be of good heart.
Yes.
And we'll see you again soon.
Okay, much love to all. Blessings, blessings.